Ishu Boy and Guru in the house, back with another bang on video. Well, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we've got great news today. Well, we'll talk about more, but most importantly, we're going to talk about a little bit of transfer news, but it's going to be a tactical analysis of how actually we neutralize Pep Guardiola's team. I got it from a Twitter account. That guy is unbelievable. His analysis is different. I won't take the credit, but I need to take all of his whatever observations that he's put up. I have to show you guys. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And not only that, we're going to talk about certain inputs from various pundits all over the world, like we all talk about. And so here's the first straight away update. Well, before Arsenal versus Manchester City's first semi-final game, Arsenal had conceded 27 goals in our previous 11 games against City without managing to keep a clean sheet. No, we never, in the last 11 games, we never managed to keep a clean sheet. And last time we stopped them from scoring was in 2015, and that is really huge to what Arteta actually achieved. But Robin Van Persie believes Arsenal would be better off without European football next season. Although qualification for Champions League is now impossible, and Gunners could yet reach the Europa League through their league position or by winning the FA Cup. But however, he said, you can look at it from two ways really, because Arsenal don't want to be in the Europa League. They want to be in the Champions League. From one point of view, you can say it's better for Mikel to have extra training sessions, to work on the tactics, to work on fitness, to go up another level, which is needed to compete at the highest level against the top teams. If you ask me, I would say it's better not to qualify for the Europa League, get those sessions in, and go up another level, hopefully, and then go next year or the season after they can really compete with the biggest teams. I have a different viewpoint than this because I believe that European competition will give Arsenal a better budget. That's the only reason why Arsenal should be in the Europa League this season. And I also personally believe that a team like Arsenal should always be in the Champions League, It's not just about Europa League. The only reason why I want right now Europa League is because to be safe and sure, I think that won't create a lot of burden on Stan Kroenke to invest indefinite amount. Or also, if we want to keep certain amount of players in the squad and not sell them, we have a good amount of budget then. So I think that helps. The Europa League qualification will definitely help Arsenal in every way. Well, moving on, Arsenal striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has dedicated his FA Cup double to his late grandmother. The 31-year-old was in sensational form as 2 goals helped see him off Manchester City, and he wrote it was an emotional caption that he uploaded an image. He wrote, "That's a team performance. Today it's a big day. I know you not on this world anymore, but your soul's still with me. These 2 goals were for you, Meme, his grandmother, for your birthday." Well, that is really emotional from our Capitan. Well, moving on. Marcelo Bielsa, well, the maestro who actually brought Leeds United into the top division after 16 painful years, is set to be handed a new £8 million a year contract, which will make him better paid than Mikel Arteta. Well, he is set to be handed a bumper new contract after ending 16 years of hurt and turmoil by guiding the Alan Road side back to the Premier League, and which puts him slightly even above Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who earns £7.5 million. That is huge. Well, Arsenal have been urged to sign Danny Ings if Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang leaves this summer. Martin Keown reckons Southampton star Ings would be perfect replacement after bagging 20 Premier League goals this season. He says Ings is doing it now at the highest level. Where would he go if he was going to one of the top clubs? Would Arsenal be a club if Aubameyang left? I don't want to speculate. But when you got 20 goals to your name, then everybody is interested in you. If suddenly you need a striker, there's no doubt the top clubs will be interested in what he does, and he continues to get better and develop, and he's still young enough to get better. Unbelievable. Well, Aubameyang is one of Inter Milan's prime targets this summer, irrespective of Lautaro Martinez's future, according to certain sources. I don't believe that, but let's see. Unai Emery, ladies and gentlemen, yes, Unai Emery will be joining Villarreal next season. Yes, it is not in contemplation. It has been spoken about by Guillem Bayag. It has been spoken about by a lot of sources, and it is going to be pretty much clear that Unai Emery, ex-Arsenal boss, will be Villarreal boss in the next season. Well, they are torturing. They are just not there in the Champions League every season by season, and since he speaks Spanish, and that was a bigger problem for him when he was at Arsenal, I think it's great to see Unai Emery back at Spain's top division. And Arsenal have covered more ground than their opponents in the 5 of their last 6 Premier League games. That is huge, isn't it? Well, Mikel Arteta has opened up about David Luiz. He says after that game against City away, he didn't have to do that, take blame in front of the media, because we all make mistakes. But the way he's been training and helping each other has been phenomenal, and I'm delighted people can now see this side of him as well. Well, Santi Cazorla was substituted on his final game for Villarreal. He got an assist to cap it off at 35 years of age, being involved in 24 goals this season, 15 goals and 9 assists. Santi Cazorla, you beauty, you maestro, a legend, complete legend. Well, it's really great because both of Arsenal's keepers have received offers from other clubs. Yes, the other clubs are actually promising them for first team football, and Arteta wants to keep them both, and neither of them particularly wants to leave. But this may be something to keep track of during the course of the window. Well, not only this, Chelsea have made it into the finals. Yes, Chelsea destroyed Manchester United 3-1 with goals from Olivier Giroud, Mason Mount, and an own goal. Also goal from Bruno Fernandes, a penalty, and an own goal from Harry Maguire. Well, a lot of Manchester United fans were really cocky, especially Mark Goldbridge. If you find his clip, or if you can go towards his channel, go and mock him just because they lost against Chelsea. Too cocky for any Manchester United fan is Mark Goldbridge. Well, talking about it, FA Cup 2017 revisited, isn't it? The final, the Baku final revenge. Can Arsenal make it? Well, only time will tell. I would just want to see how things will turn out. So, as promised, I'm going to talk about the whole Arsenal versus Manchester City. How did Arsenal beat Manchester City? Well, in something that has become more common since the lockdown, Pep Guardiola has gradually been morphing away from his standard 4-3-3 and selected more of a 4-2-3-1 shape, with Kevin De Bruyne sitting deeper alongside Ilkay Gundogan in a double pivot, with David Silva in more of a number 10 role. Well, Arteta went with a 3-4-3 shape for an 8th successive game, a system he has selected ever since the opening 2 defeats to Man City and Brighton. Well, the first half was Pep employed a very high press on Arteta's 3 centre-backs. There were a few occasions where it resulted in City recovering the ball in the dangerous areas, mainly when Arsenal centre-backs took too long to build play instead of finding a pass into midfield, thus inviting the high press. It was our mistake, but however, when the speed of Arsenal's ball circulation improved, as did their ability to break through Arsenal's press, this was also particularly helped by Xhaka and Ceballos constantly showing for the ball in tight spaces and being able to turn away from pressure. Direct improvement on the issues we noted with Guendouzi not showing for the ball in these kind of build-up situations in the tactical analysis previously done by these guys from where I actually got this. Xhaka was particularly immaculate in possession, completing 28 out of 30 passes. Hence, Granit Xhaka is also perfect in Mikel Arteta's this system. Well, the quicker circulation of the ball from the centre-backs also benefited Arsenal in transition from a chance creation point of view. For example, for Aubameyang's early one-on-one chance, Luiz wins the ball back and immediately fires a pass into him, meaning Aubameyang can breach City's high line, which he did. Well, unfortunately, he could not finish it that well. And when Arsenal's build-up was patient, it was vital to have a link from their deeper build-up to the attack. It now seems Arteta prefers Lacazette's superior link-up play to Nketiah's energy. He played a big part in the first goal, dropping deep to receive the ball off Tierney. This first goal also showed where Man City sometimes missed the presence of a ball winner like Fernandinho in midfield. The pass from Tierney easily bypasses Kevin De Bruyne and Gundogan. Fernandinho often either blocks the passing lane or would be very tight to Lacazette in such scenarios. Well, in the 3-0 loss to City, it was Nketiah's leading a high press on City's centre-backs, but the selection of Lacazette altered this into a successful mid-press. It was Pepe and Aubameyang who pressed higher, but in a controlled manner. They ensured that the pass to Mendy and Kyle Walker was cut off whilst doing so. Lacazette would drop deeper and apply pressure to Gundogan, thus cutting off one of Aymeric Laporte and Garcia's passing option. This also suits Lacazette's physical capacity more than pressing high. This meant Laporte and Garcia often looked to play a more advanced pass into either Kevin De Bruyne or Silva, but this is where the superb tracking of Ceballos and Xhaka was crucial. They regularly denied passes into them, which then forced City to go long. And when they did, Mustafi and Luiz won 6 out of 7 aerial duels. Well, even when Kevin De Bruyne dropped deeper alongside Gundogan to receive the ball, Xhaka was happy to apply pressure in more advanced areas. This wouldn't be possible about the overall disciplined defensive structure that Arteta has implemented. A solution for City would have been Sterling using his pace and making those runs with Laporte or Garcia finding him with long passes. There was just one pass of this type in the first half. Or it could be that Jesus, to get more involved in City's build up in between the lines, behind Xhaka and Ceballos, Jesus made just 4 passes in those areas in the first half. And the second half just looked like Pep decided to find a solution by changing the attacking shape of his team with 4-3-1-2 type of shape. Sterling moving off his wing into a deeper inside left position just ahead of the midfield three and behind Mahrez, staying wide right and Jesus up front. This meant that City's centre-backs now had an additional passing option to find, and with Mendy overlapping quite aggressively, Bellerin was detracted from coming inside and getting very tight to Sterling. Sterling then used his dribbling ability to turn and run at Arsenal's defence. Well, Sterling actually touched the ball 16 times in an inside left position in the second half. With Sterling taking a more central build-up responsibility, Kevin De Bruyne was then allowed to create overloads out wide and find dangerous crossing positions in some of City's build-up. It was only Arsenal's brilliant defensive organisation that meant they held firm against this system change. Here, even Pepe has dropped into the defensive deep block to block the pass into Sterling in this inside left position to cover for Bellerin, who has to track Mendy. So you can see the work Arteta has done in making Arsenal more and more organised. However, Ederson soon breaches this, but Arsenal filter back to a very well 5-4-1. Aubameyang tracks back to ensure Walker isn't free. Willock blocks the pass into Mendy. Man City now have 3 players in between the lines, but Arsenal are very compact centrally. Jesus attempts to create a fourth option, but Tierney has come out of the back 3 to track him down. Meanwhile, Bellerin is in the perfect position to cover Mendy wide left, but not leave a huge gap between him and Mustafi. Eventually, the ball goes out to Kevin De Bruyne, but Ainsley's positioning is as good as Bellerin's was earlier, and he gives Kevin De Bruyne a tough cross to make. Arsenal centre-backs and Bellerin are smartly tucked in the ball on the opposite and also marking City's attackers as well. So instead, Kevin De Bruyne decides to loft the ball to the edge of the box. A heavy touch from Laporte means the ball goes loose, and because Aubameyang earlier tracked back into the block, he can recover the ball. It was a huge great thing to see. Well, this is how Arsenal actually beat Manchester City. If you guys liked it, do let me know in the comment section. And if you're still new to this channel, if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe, and don't forget to tune in to our second live of the channel, because today evening we're going to be live, evening as in 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, 3 p.m. BST, and 4 p.m. Central African Time. I will see you in my next video. Until then, cheers, and don't forget to subscribe.